So the Rebbe discussed the two levels of menucha. We went into this by discussing that Pesach and Yitzias Mitzrayim, Svira and Shavuos are all called Shabbos. Matan Torah are all called Shabbos. So he started to explain. He's trying to explain the different Giluyim, the Makiv HaKorev, the Makiv HaRochik, which comes down during Yitzias Mitzrayim, and then that comes down during Matan Torah. So he started to explain that this is like the Inyan of Shabbos because they're all called Shabbos. And by Shabbos, we have two levels. We have resting from work, which brings a delight. But first there comes the effort, and then comes a menucha afterwards. That's the level of tainug, which comes after the Yigiyah. But then you also have a menucha, a Shabbos be'etzem, which is not following Yigiyah, but a higher level of menucha. So we're learning yesterday about the level of menucha that comes after Yigiyah. Now we're starting to go on the higher level of menucha. Omnom kol zehu inyan hashvisa v'hamenucha she'acharei hayigiyah. All this that we discussed is the resting and the relaxing that is achrei hayigiyah, that is after the effort. Then you have ubchinas hamenucha be'etzem. But the level of menucha be'etzem, hu al derech ma shekosuf gabi shloimeh, it's similar to what it is written with regards to Shloimeh, hu yiyeh ish menucha. He's going to be a man of menucha, man of relaxation. She'ein hakavone. So over there, the intention is not sheyiyu loy milchamos ve'achar kach yiyeh loy menucha. That he'll have wars and then he will have rest. Then he'll have relaxation from after having war. No. Menucha ma'amilchamas. Ki im. Over there, the pshat by Shloima, when we say Zeish Menucha, Sheyiyah etzloi matzav shel menucha be'etzem, by him there's going to be a condition of essence of menucha. Menucha be'etzem. And v'hatainuk sheyeshnoi be'inyan ha'menucha be'etzem, the tainuk that exists by the idea of when you have the essence of menucha be'etzem, hu tainug naile yoser, that's a higher level of delight, mehatainug shebemenucha la'achar ha'yigiyah, than the delight that comes in resting after effort. The delight that you have in menucha be'etzem is a higher level than the tainug that you have in the menucha that comes after the yigiyah. V'hu b'chinas tainug habilti murgash. That is a delight that is not felt. The delight, what that comes after Yigiyah, that's a tangible, that's a felt level of Tainug. The level of Tainug be'etzem is not felt. It's an inner, it's an essence Tainug that is not felt. Okay, so these are the two levels. But Shabbos basically has both of these levels. We have the level of Friday night. The Shabbos is basically, we have the 3 meals of Shabbos. So we have Friday night and Shabbos day. And then we have the Suda Shlishis, we have the third meal. So first is going to say the different levels that we experience at each of the meals, and then he's going to say within each of the times of the night of Shabbos and the day of Shabbos, And then he's going to say within the day and the night itself, we have the davening of Shabbos and we have the meal of Shabbos. Let's look inside. V'hinei Amru Razal, our sages tell us, Shebechol Shabbos Yeshnom Beis Shabbosis. That every Shabbos there's two restings. There's two Shabboses within every Shabbos. You have Maile Shabbato, that's the Friday night, the Shabbos that when you bring in the Shabbos, Maile Shabbato, and then you have V'yoyim Shabbato, and you have the day of Shabbos, the Shabbos day. Maile the Shabbato, who inyan ha'aliyah milmato l'maylo. The Friday night, the Maila de Shabbato, that's the Aliyah Milmata Lamailo. That's from below to above. That's the Tainuk that comes after the Yigia of the weekday. On Friday night, that's the level of the Aliyah that comes Milmata Lamailo, the idea of Tainuk that comes Milmata Lamailo. But the Yoima de Shabbato, but the day of Shabbos is when you bring down from above to below. That's in a general way the nafkamina, the difference between Friday night and Shabbos day. Friday night is bringing up from below to above, and Shabbos day is bringing down from above to below. Either from below to above on Friday or on Shabbos day, milmay lamato. But more specific, in a general way, we divide it between Friday night and Shabbos day. But more detailed, yeshnoi b'chol echad mehem beis yonyonim. In each one, in Maila Shabbato and in Yom de Shabbato, we have these both in Yonim. Ubechol echad mehem, in each one of them, which means in Maila Shabbato and in Yom de Shabbato, in each one of them, you have menucha she'achrei hayigia. You have the menucha that comes after, that follows the effort, and then you have the menucha be'etzem, the menucha in essence, which is the davening and the meals. We have both. We have two meals. We have the meals of Friday night. We'll talk about Suda Shlishis in a minute. So you have like this. You have the prayer of Friday night, the davening, and you have the Suda. Shari Yudua, ha'hefresh bein hatfilis the Shabbos, la Sudas the Shabbos. Is known the difference between the davening of Shabbos and the Shabbos meals. Shahat tefilos hu inyan ha'aliyah milmata l'maylo. The davening, that's the level of aliyah from below to above. And also vegam, it also includes oineg haposhut, the simple level of delight. That's the delight that comes from the achrei the yigia. That's the oineg haposhut. That's the level of tefillah. But v'hasuudes, but the meals of Shabbos, hu'iyan. So on the kind of the oineg haposhut, which is the simple delight, meaning the non-felt delight, the higher level of delight. V'asudes, and the meals of Shabbos, hu inyan ha'hamshocha milmaylo lemato, that's bringing it down from above to below, to the lower level, v'gam oineg hamurgash. And the delight is a felt delight. It's an oineg hamurgash. That's the lower level of oineg. So we have davening and we have meals. Davening are the aliyah mimata l'maylo and oneg haposhut, and the meals are hamshocha milmaylo l'mato and oneg hamurgash. And we have both on Friday night and Shabbos. V'arei b'mali de Shabbato, v'hein b'yoyma de Shabbato, but both on Friday night and on the day Shabbos, yeshnom Bezo inyonim suudo tefillah. So you have both inyonim of suudo tefillah. So what we said before, the two Shabboses, the two rests, uh, uh, that we have. So lechatchila, he says there's a difference of Mailas Shabbato and Yom de Shabbato. Now he's saying within each one, we have both of these rests because each one has tefillah and the level of the Suda. So the tefillah is the higher level, is the level of Oineg, the higher level of rest, the Oineg HaPoshut. And the Sudas is the Oineg HaMurgash. That's the meal. You actually feel the meal. You enjoy it. It is the light over there. That's the lower level. So you have them both. The Iker Inyan Hagilui, the Menucha Be'etzem, but the main idea of revelation of the Menucha Be'etzem, that higher level of Menucha that we were talking about, which is not Menucha after Yigiyah, but it's a Menucha in essence, Yilosid. That's going to be in the future. Right now, we don't have that level. B'yoyim Shekulu Shabbos Menucha, in a day that is all Shabbos and Menucha, which is in the future. Then there will be the Gilu of Menucha Be'etzem. Ume'ein zeh, and somewhat of that, Meir b'miyuchad achshav b'suda ashlishis Shabbos. So now, some of it comes out, especially on the third meal of Shabbos, which is called Raiva de Chol Raivim. That's the Rotzen of all Ritzonos, meaning that's the highest level, that the level of Menucha Be'etzem. So basically, we have the two meals. You can divide it up between Malish Shabbato and Yom de Shabbato. Within each meal, within each Malish Shabbat, we can divide it between the davening and the meal itself. But more specifically, the real Menucha Be'etzem is La'asud Lavai. And we get it, some of it during the Suda Shlishis of Shabbos, that's when you get from that higher level of Menucha. That is Bechinas Tainug Habilti Murgosh. You get the delight which is not felt. The meal is called a felt tainug, but here on the Suda Shalishis, we actually have the idea that we don't have a regular meal. It's not like the other meals of Shabbos, like the other meals. We learn out the three meals because it says three times by the mon over there, Hayoim, we learn out three times. But when it talks about the Suda Shlishis, over there the pasuk says Hayom Lo Timtzou, which even though it's a Suda, but it's in a way of Loi, that's why the Suda Shlishis is not the same as the other, because it's a non-felt Tainug, so you don't have it's at a higher level, so you don't have the full, you have it Hayom Loi. So basically, on Suda Shlishis, on Shabbos, that's when we have somewhat of the Gilu of La'asud Lavai, in which there will be the Menucha Be'etzem. And that also is consistent with the Lashon and the davening that we say in the davening by Suda Shlishis, by the Mincha Shabbos, over there we talk about the higher level of menucha that we experience during the Suda Shlishis. And this is why we say on Mincha de Shabbos we say ki meitcha hi menuchasom, that the rest of the Yidden, their Shabbos, their rest, is meitcha, comes from Hashem. And because it comes from Hashem, he calls it a menucha shleima she'ata. That is a complete, a full menucha that you want it. So what does it mean when we say that you have a full menucha? That's the menucha be'etzem. Upirush me'itcha menucha shleima. What does it mean? That from you, ki me'itcha menuchasum, it's a menucha shleima, hu inyan menucha be'etzem. That is the essence level of menucha. So that's the higher level of menucha. The higher level of menucha, the higher level of tainug is in the mincha. That's what we do in the mincha. That's at that point. So basically, we have these two levels of menucha. When they come down, either on Friday night comes the first level, and on Shabbos day we have the second level. But more specifically, we have both levels on both days. But the real menucha, the menucha b'etzem, is on Suda Shlishis. That's why we say over there me'itcha menuchasom, that from you it's the menucha shleim. Where is the root? Shoyrish beis bechinas elu b'menucha. Where is the root of these two menuchas in the level that comes? They come from their shoyrish. Where does it come? Is b'menucha. Hu bechinas makif hayoshor u'makif hachayzer. That's at the level of the straight level of makif, which we learned earlier would be the level of Adam Kadmin Ak, or makif hachayzer, which is the makif that is the chayzer we learned before, which would be the level of Atik, or in the higher levels, as he discussed earlier. The makif hayoshor shehu oir shebegeder gilui, the makif hayoshor, which is an oir which is defined still in Revelation, shayich boy inyan hatzimtzum vehelem. So then over there applies the idea of restriction and obscurity. So in order to get to the menucha, you need to put effort. Dugma sa'amal v'yigia. Having a tzimtzum and a helem is similar to the effort and the hard work that you put in which you get the menucha. The fact that the oil has the inyan of tzimtzum helem, that is the makif hayoshor, which is the shoyrish of the menucha that comes after the amal v'yigia. So from this light, from this level of the oir yoshor, hu hamenucha sh'achrei hayigia. That's where you get menucha, that after the effort. Basically, that the level of oir yoshor, the level of Adam Kadman, or the higher level, as it is in the different levels. That's the menucha achrei hayigia, because it's an oir which is shaykh to the oilamos. So there is tzimtzum and helem, that's like the amal v'yigia. So that you have the menucha achrei hayigia. Umakiv the oir chayzer. But when we talk about the makiv of the oir chayzer, shulamayla megeder gilui, which is the oir be'etzem is higher than gilui. Ein shayich bo inyan hatzimtzum v'helem klal. So over there it doesn't apply the idea of tzimtzum and obscurity at all. And therefore mitzad oir zeh hu hamshochas menucha be'etzem. That's why from this light, then there's hamshocha of menucha be'etzem. So mitzad the makif harochik, mitzad atik, over there you have menucha be'etzem. You have the tainuk habilti murgush, the tainuk that is not felt. Basically, to put it in the words in this one way, is that the menucha that comes after the yegia, that comes from the revelation of Ak, Adon Kadmon, because that's the Makif HaKorev, the revelation of Menucha Be'etzem. The Menucha Be'etzem comes that you get the Hamshocha from Atik, and that's a Makif HaRochek, a Makif HaChezer. And over there, you get the higher level of Tainug, the Tainug Abilti Murgash. Okay, so now we explained basically this whole ois, this long ois, explained basically that there is the two levels of Shabbos. There is Shabbos that comes after an effort, which brings down a lower level of Tainug, and then there is the level of Shabbos, which is Menucha Be'etzem, which brings down a higher level of Tainug, Tainug Abilti Murgesh, and how it manifests itself in the different meals and of Shabbos. And now we will see how these two levels also are the difference between Yetzias Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. In Yetzias Mitzrayim, we had the revelation of the Makif HaKorev, and by Matan Torah, we had the revelation from the Makif HaRoch. Vov. So based on this, we'll understand the difference between what happened when the Yetzias Mitzrayim and giving of the Torah. Yetzias Mitzrayim hu b'chinas medalik. The level of Yetzia of Mitzrayim is on a level of medalik, which means the gilu you got was with 1 foot, he said, which means not the highest level yet. It's medalik with 1 foot. Matan Torah, but Matan Torah, you get the higher level of b'chinas mekapitz. That's the level of jumping with both feet. Hine, behold, b'yitzias Mitzrayim. When we talk about the exodus of Egypt, Hagam shahoyu as giluyim shalamaylam b'seder ha'ishtalshlus. Even though there were revelation that are higher than Hishtalshalus, so there were higher, greater revelation than the Hishtalshalus. As the pasuk says, "V'avarti beretz Mitzrayim." It says the Eibusha says, "I will pass through beretz Mitzrayim." So what do we say in the Haggadah? Avarti, ani, v'loy malach, me, not an angel, v'loy sorov, not a sorov, v'loy shaliach, not an agent, v'loy achad, not anybody, only Hashem himself. That means Hashem himself, which means higher than Hishtalshlus. Had it been a malach sorov or a shliach, that would mean within Hishtalshlus. The revelation that came about by Yetzias Mitzrayim was Ani, it was the Eibishter himself, higher than Hishtalshlus. Notwithstanding the fact that it was higher Hishtalshlus, Mikol Makoim, nevertheless, Kol Giluyim Elu, Hoyu Be'ike B'dei Litches Ulevat L'Sara. All of these revelations were mainly to push away and to negate the bad. It was a level to get rid of the negativity. That was the main commission. The pasuk says, "V'yedu Mitzrayim." Mitzrayim should know, but the word "Yedu Mitzrayim" is "V'yedu Loshen Shvira," to break Egypt. The level, the reason why we had the light of higher than Hishtalshlus is that through that revelation that broke Mitzrayim. Utchias ubitl hora legamri. When did it take place to push away and totally negated and destroyed the Ra totally legamri hoivish makas b'chayris? That was at the time of makas b'chayris. So therefore, then we needed Hashem to pass by the higher level of ishtalshlus. Then it needed to be Avisha will pass, and not in order to get rid of the Ra, to get rid of the B'chayris. Yisrael, and the revelation that the Yidden had, that was mainly because there needed to be a protection to the Yidden from the plagues, from the makis of the Egyptians. As the Pasuk says, V'samti pedus, I will make a redemption for the Yidden that they won't suffer, especially by makas b'chayris, b'yichud b'makas b'chayris, and especially by makas b'chayris, she'af she'noguf l'mitzrayim, even though this was a plague for the Egyptians. Yiyah ripui liYisrael. This should be a healing, a salvation for the Yidden. They're being plagued, but the Yidden are being saved through that. So you needed mainly to get rid of the Egyptians, but the Yidden will be healed from that. Why take? Why did we need the higher level of ishtalshlus in order to accomplish that? Couldn't the Abish that we're saying, Vavarti, mainly it was loy shaliach higher than ishtalshlus, because we had to get rid of the Ra. Why isn't ishtalshlus enough to get rid of the Ra? It seems to be enough. The idea is that it's not understood. Lama hutzrach legilu naila kozeh. Why was it necessary for such a great revelation? Why do we need the higher of ishtalshlus? But again, Seder ishtalshlus amru. But even within Seder ishtalshlus, our sages tell us that Hoishi Hakadosh Baruch Hu etzboya ktana beineihem v'sorfam, that the Eibishter put his small finger by them and he burned them. He's talking about in the level even of the Malachim. It's the Gemara in Sanhedrin. But why does the Eibishter need to bring higher than ishtalshlus to get rid of the Ra, when even a small finger, what does the small finger represent? Level of Malchus, which is ishtalshlus. So he says, the kasher hoya gilu oir yoser min hakotzuv lahem, that when there was a greater light that was designated for them, hagam shehoya hagilu detzboya ktana malchus, if you gave them more oir than was designed for them, and even though it was just a small finger, which means malchus, yet mikol makom is batlu, so they were destroyed. So why do we need higher than ishtalshlus? Why did he need the gilu of avarti? The binyan asviris. Then when we talk about sviris, what is the level from avarti? Who amshachas hakeser? It's keser. Why did we need to bring down keser? Or the makif hakorev, even, which would be atik, but it's keser. Adle b'chinas keser hayeser elyon, until the highest level of keser, which is included in the avarti. The loma lo hispigilu to say that ishtalshlus. So why was there not sufficient of a revelation of ishtalshlus? The idea is shekol seder ishtalshlus. Okay, you know what? Let's leave over here by Acha and we'll learn the answer. We'll learn a Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. Okay.
That's the time. Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a good day.